Well, the Director of Operations from Action Against Hunger, Saul Guerrero, joins me now in the studio. Saul, thanks for coming in today. So the death toll stands at around 5,000, with tens of thousands injured in Nepal. So how critical is it that in the form of aid, food, water and medicine reaches the people in the most remote regions?
It's absolutely essential. At the moment, the scope of the understanding that we have of the situation is fairly limited to those areas that we can access. But what we anticipate is that the level of need will increase as we start to reach into those areas outside of the capital. You have to remember that this is a country that before the earthquake had 1 out of every 2 children suffering from malnutrition, 11% of those children suffering from the most severe forms of the condition. So this earthquake will only exacerbate that problem and will force us to find creative ways to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing now.
So for those people who have been forced to camp out in the open or have chosen to move there because of fears that their house might collapse in an aftershock, how scarce are the resources in terms of food and water and medicine for them?
Very scarce, and those people camping out tonight include some of our own teams who are sleeping in tents outside of our homes. The resources are fairly limited. The food supplies inside the city the cities are fairly limited. The cash availability is also a huge problem. Most of the people that left their homes left with what they had on them, and many of them, the majority of them, haven't really been able to return. So I think that the food problem is only going to get worse as the days go by, as will the water and sanitation problem, which your report highlighted.
When it comes to food and water in short supply, especially in the areas which are hard to reach, how difficult is it for aid organisations like yours and for others like the UN and Save the Children operating in these areas?
For organizations like Action Against Hunger, we've been in the country since 2005, so we have a fairly good understanding of the situation. But it's still a challenge to get into the country. The airport in Kathmandu now is facing a lot of problems with the sheer volume of people coming in. But even as you try to get outside, what you find is an infrastructure that was already quite weak, and that the earthquake has only made more difficult to navigate.
We've heard reports from the airport as well today in Kathmandu that planes are having trouble landing because of the congestion there. So aid is on its way, but it can't necessarily get into the areas that it's needed. How critical is it that that's solved as soon as possible?
It is absolutely essential. The Nepalese government has highlighted the importance of getting helicopters and getting transport to move a lot of those resources that are trickling into the capital to some of those hard-to-reach areas. There are alternative routes that we can take, and there are alternative airports that we can use, but fixing the infrastructure is going to be an essential part of the whole process.
The town of Gurkha, which was very near the epicenter of the earthquake, is being used as a staging location now for supplies to get them to even more sort of remote satellite areas in the country. So how effective do you think that will be in terms of a strategy for getting aid to the right places?
I think we need to create a number of hubs like that, from where we can launch sort of short-term moves to get some of those resources to the hard-to-reach areas. I mean, 1 or 2 places won't be sufficient, but I think we're starting to make headway in that sense. We have a team of 11 people heading out there right now, and I think, like many of the organizations on the ground, what we are trying to create is a lot of those platforms from which to launch some of those responses.
Saul Guerrero from Action for Hunger, thank you very much indeed for that.